Hey, did you know we were supposed to have an Olympics last year?
Uh, I actually just started noticing the news on this.
Yeah.
Um, like Tokyo coming back.
Well, it's funny because like with everything that happened in 2020, I don't. There's a very small percentage of people that actually remembered that an Olympics was supposed to happen in the summer.
Yeah, yeah, it, it was taken off of everybody's minds.
It was taken off of everybody's minds, and nobody seemed to care, which makes me wonder: like, is the Olympics actually necessary at all? Like, should we even have an Olympics if it doesn't if nobody but the athletes, because I know it affects the athletes a lot. It affects their whole lives. So, but other than them, like, does it affect anybody or anything? But to this story, it this news agency in Tokyo polled like 1,000 people asking about the Olympics, and over 80% of them said that it should be canceled or postponed. And then let's see. So 35% said they should just outright cancel the whole Olympics, and 45% said that they should postpone a second time because I guess numbers are rising in Japan again.
Hmm.
And so it's like you can just should we just postpone it until the next Summer Olympics? Like, what's the point? It doesn't seem like people in Japan really care anymore. Um, I've heard that any city that hosts an Olympics, they have an initial surplus because of people visiting, but after that, it's like a huge financial burden because they spent all this money to create stadiums and such that then are never used again. So it seems like the negatives outweigh the positives, and I guess people in Japan are starting to see that. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about not having the Olympics or postponing an Olympics?
Do you have the bleep button ready?
I don't have a bleep button, but feel free to say whatever you want.
Oh, so this happened with Brazil too. With Zika. Do you remember Zika?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
That was causing all of these deformities with unborn children and things like that. And the Zika in Brazil was just absolutely out of control. And but yet they were still pushing the Olympics. And people were calling for the Olympics to be canceled. But their argument was this is going to do so much for the country. And if you look at the pictures of the stadiums and everything, they're literally just falling apart right
Now,
now.
now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're literally just falling apart. They're wastelands. They're just it's it's disgusting that there was so much money spent on that. And this is just my opinion. There's so much money spent on that, and people are more focused about uh almost the pride of hosting the Olympics than actually taking people's safety into concern. Like I remember the athletes had to have these special suits that would repel all the mosquitoes. Um, I don't think it's about the athletes anymore. I don't think it's about um, actual like national pride. I think it's more about, hey, let's see who can bank off of this.
Mm,
And then they create these huge environmental disasters that just like carry on for years and years.
mm.
My personal opinion is like back in the day when you actually cheered for specific athletes and it was like a huge deal. I think probably like the end of Michael Phelps, post Michael Phelps, is when I really started to change my opinion on the Olympics. Um, but yeah, I just don't see it as what it used to be.
I think you're right. I think it's more of a corporate cash grab now. All these corporations sort of coming into whatever city and just reaping whatever they can. Sponsors reaping whatever they can. It seems like, I think, like you said, it used to be all about like national pride and um, like sportsmanship. Now you don't hear anything about sportsmanship and the competitive spirit.
Yeah,
It's more of like how much a country makes, or like even with all the doping stuff with Russia, it's like what's the point if one
yeah,
country's just gonna use doping and other countries don't, like what's there's an unfair advantage, then there's so many other things going on that's just like what's the point of having the Olympics anymore?
yeah. I actually think individual like regional games are much better. Um, but the Olympics, it's shit like I totally agree. It's a cash cow for certain people. I don't think it's fair. I think that just like what you said with the Russia situation, it was just a shit show.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, and I heard, I forgot where I heard this, but one of the arguments for the Olympics was every 4 years it was a way for countries to sort of fight their wars in a non-violent way, in a more using sport as a way to fight their differences and such. But I think that's such BS now, considering all the proxy wars and the all the other crap that happens online and such. Like that argument can't be made anymore. Like I don't think there is a good argument to have the Olympics anymore. Like I don't I can't. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to play devil's advocate with myself and think, okay, what would be a good reason to have the Olympics? And based on what we just talked about, it's like I really can't think of one. Can you think of one?
yeah, I can think of one. Um, I actually really like, and I'll relate this to a kind of recent situation. I think the NBA did a really great job with their season as far as putting everyone in the bubble. But what you noticed was I noticed that there was a lot more sportsmanship and getting back to the game because there weren't any fans. Like they had digital fans. Like people were playing because they loved the sport. Of course, they're getting paid millions of dollars as well. That's a big cash cow. But I saw a difference there, and I think that if the Olympics could be that again, where instead of, I mean, instead of fighting wars, what is that about? It should be about like the whole point of the Olympics was, to me, was to come together and then to find the best of the best, not because you necessarily just wanted to be the best, but because we wanted to like further the human race.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
what was and what is a different story these days, though.
yeah, it's totally
But
totally
I see
different.
your point. I would I see that point. But the hard part would be to reverse the machine that's already been in motion for how many ever
Oh
years.
yeah, that's impossible.
Yeah.
That's impossible.